Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Pfeiffer, and this is Conversations on Retail. We are so excited to have with us again today our friend Rick West, the co-founder and CEO of Field Agent. And Rick is back for kind of the second installment of our Actionable Insights series. Rick's going to be talking with us about some great research that they did around back to school. The back to school survey was conducted with more than 1,400 moms of grade school kids to get them talking about their upcoming back to school expectations or plans or purchases and more. And the one thing I want to say before we turn this over to Rick and allow him to kind of talk about their findings is the whole purpose of Conversations on Retail is that this would be interactive. And I know we've had several people sign up. We got a couple people have already joined us live. And of course, the video will be archived for anyone to watch anytime that they want to. But as you have questions, I would just encourage you to submit those via the Q&A button. And we'll make sure that Rick gets to as many of those as he possibly can. So Rick, thank you again so much for making the time to do this. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
Man, as always, man, really appreciate the time. And for the folks that are listening today, appreciate that. We would argue, Matt, that we're all trying to be, storytellers here. And it's always, fun to have an interesting story to tell. And when you think of back to school, that we run the risk of someone saying, yeah, Rick, I've heard this story. I've been there, done that. And so I'm not so sure you've got a new story to tell. But in the world of research, which is part of where we live, we are constantly engaging, everyday people, shoppers, parents, moms of school age kids, just really trying to engage. What is different? What do things look like? And so I would argue we have probably a little bit of a different story to tell. There'll be some things that are similar of what's happening here in the summer of 2022. So that's the part we want to get started with. As we've talked through this, Matt, you and I have engaged before that we'll always have a ton of research and data. So we've got on our blog actually 21 tips of excruciating, really good pieces of data that we have turned into bite-size pieces of data. Again, the 21 tips for people to look at. So you can go to blog.fieldagent.net and see that today. And then we've got a great checklist, kind of the back to school checklist and what you can really do to be successful. That's going to be on the blog as well. But what's important today is that we've narrowed down what we would argue is that there's 7 real key tips we want to talk through today. And then, as we joke through it, if you've been in stores, it's those school buses that are all geared up and they're warming up, is that you've seen the school buses, the corrugated displays in the stores, so people are getting ready. And it's still, actually, now we're at June 2nd. It's June 2nd, and the buses are cranking, even though school is just now ending. Back to school, can't start too early. Matt, as you talked earlier, talked about 1,400 moms of children entering K through 12, a good breakout of demographics. And when we were talking to them, we started out by saying, hey, even generically from a spend standpoint, where do you see yourself? Do you see yourself spending more, about the same? And what we found was, practically speaking, the majority of roughly around 75, 80% will either spend the same or more than they did last year. Very few, like the 9th percentile, is going to spend less or much less than they did last year. Now, that's interesting from an inflation standpoint. We know things are kind of crazy, but they know they're going to spend more because the things are coming up in school. And so as we look through the tips, the first tip, and Matt, this is important for all of us, and I'll give you a quote from a school supply brand, one of the CPG or a brand manufacturer that gave us this perspective, is that they look at kind of rethinking what back to school is. And they see that back to school supply shopping is unique because there's really no other shopping occasions throughout the year where so many households are required to buy so many of the same items at the same time. It's not one pen, it's multiples. It's not, one thing for the classroom, we need a box of tissues. It could be multiple. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. And so as you begin to rethink that and you look at buying the multiples, one of the questions we ask the folks is like, which of the following items do you expect to purchase for that coming school year? Choose all that apply. Obviously, school supplies are screaming at 93%, right? I mean, every one of the brothers buying the hardcore school supplies, but in the 90th percentile, clothes and footwear pop in. I mean, I remember my parents, it was always that, new pair of shoes as you're entering school, especially when you're little, is always really cool. But what I thought was also interesting is that obviously things like hand sanitizer are kicking in, cleaning supplies, which are on the school list that teachers will provide. But even restocking medicines and vitamins, looking at the new school year for athletics, even electronics. Some schools are, whether it be the old version of a calculator or something very specific to the school, we can't let ourselves just think it's just pens and paper. It's more than that. So rethinking back to school is important for tip one. Matt, the second one, and if you've been in this space at all, you get it. You got to win the first couple of weeks of July, first couple of weeks of August are big as well. But what's important for us is that we know that over 50% of the US population, K through 12, goes back to school during the first week of August. That being said, with supply chain challenges and things that are in front of us, we know that people are going to be shopping early. So, you have to win in July and August. You can't wait and try to win in September. And so when we looked at another aspect of things, we asked the shoppers, said, hey, do you wait around until the tax holiday, if your state offers it, to be able to buy school supplies? And gosh, almost half said it wouldn't influence their purchasing pattern. About half, again, said they'd make some purchases during the tax holiday. So that wasn't necessarily a driver. But then you get into, hey, if you look at last year, when do you expect to shop this year? And about a third of the group said a little bit earlier. And if you look at earlier or much earlier, we're close to 45% that will be shopping earlier. And a lot of that's tied to, gosh, are we going to have supply? Will things be in stock? And what does that look like? So if you're not on shelves right now and you think about the executional part of this, and you got to be shopping early, you got to be able to engage early. So that's kind of the second tip. From mom's perspective, we had a couple of quotes from shoppers that came out, a couple of interesting. One is, I'm looking at shopping as early as possible to avoid the crowds and lack of supplies. Again, that whole supply chain thing kicking in. And then one even said, I hope to do a little bit earlier this year, shop earlier, because everything seems to sell out quickly and I've got 2 kids to buy for. So it's timing, it's being on the shelf, it's important. Now in our world, obviously we help suppliers, audit to make sure things are okay. We do a good job of making sure that you've got samples in place and you help people buy new products, but it's starting earlier than ever. So that's important for folks to know. Matt, the third part, and intuitively, again, this makes sense, is that you've only got so many resources to focus these days, and you can't really win back to school if you're spreading yourself too thin. So our third tip is really focusing on that strategically imperative retailer. And when folks identify retailers, if you look over the last 4 or 5 years since we've been doing this type of work, the big ones pop up, right? If you look at not online, but you look at brick and mortar, 90% of the folks we interviewed said they'd be shopping at Walmart, 70% at Target, 37% Dollar Tree, 30% Dollar General, Walgreens, Sam's Clubs kicks in there. So we know you got to win where people are shopping, the big one. But then we ask the exact same question again, all the locations or places you begin shopping on online retailers, and surprise, surprise, Amazon kicks back in. So from a brick and mortar standpoint, while you've got the classic Walmart, Target, the dollars, the drug channel, the clubs, Amazon kicks into number one. And then you also see like Office Depot, Office Max kicking in. I mean, I've even surprised to see a handful of folks, around 4%, they're looking at eBay. So you got to make sure that your online presence is solid, you're where people are shopping, but it's still going to be obviously the big 3 or 4 from a brick and mortar standpoint. So no surprises there, but want to continue to reinforce when you look at just your resources and how you're spending and what it looks like. Fourth one for us is really about, the economy. No, joke, joke, joke. It's really about product availability. And, we kind of joke around here is that you used to say it's location, location, location. You say, hey, it's the economy, stupid. It's really about product availability. And we had a couple of quotes from moms that says, I believe it will be more stressful than ever because I do not think stores will have sufficient stock. Now, I want you to think about the psyche there. You've got moms or, again, parents that are shopping for their kids, and they're concerned that their kids may not have the supplies they need to have to start school. And they're already worried about it in June, and school starts in October. It starts in August. So they're already stressed out about that. And even if the stock is there, another mom said, I'm worried about the selection. Stores are already struggling to keep items stocked. So while they might have an item, maybe it's not the item that my child is looking for, which can be obviously really stressful about how things are going to look. So that's important to making sure that from a supply chain standpoint, it's in great shape. So then we asked the question while we're engaging around product availability, we said, here's the question for you. What's the single biggest obstacle for your household when shopping inside of stores? Number one was product availability. Number two was finding affordable prices. And then it gets into styles and selection. So really, really important for us. Now, what also comes into play, and we'll talk about this in a second, we saw one of the participants ask this question around online pickup in store, building the basket size. We'll speak to that a little bit, but as we go through, we start asking the core questions. The fifth tip for us gets into really about e-commerce pages and the shape, and what does it really mean for that? And we know that back to school is all about omni-channel, right? It's brick and mortar as well as online. And about 86% of the households said they expect to purchase at least a little online. So you can't ignore the e-commerce presence. So along those lines, we talked to those same parents and said, gosh, 76% of them said that they would spend less than half online, but about 10% said they would spend more than half. So it's still a good number or a good chunk in there. And then if you look at which of the following methods that they're going to purchase their school supplies, and we said, gosh, select either store pickup, package delivery, or local in-town delivery. Almost 70% of the participants that answered this question, about 1,200 of the 1,400, said that they would actually choose store pickup, okay, for the way they were going to purchase school supplies. Again, 67%, nearly 70%, so they could use store pickup, 50% was package delivery, and then 33% would be local in-town, delivery. So practically speaking, you guys know, if you're a supplier out there, you know how this works. Just because in-store looks great doesn't mean pickup's going to be in great shape. And if you don't get things in sync between your e-commerce world and your in-premise, if you're an OPD person for Walmart or you're looking at your store pickup, everything's can be out of whack, and your inventory can really be a mess. So that's really important to be able to assess your in-store product availability, how it matches up with online, and what that does for store pickup. Because again, about 67% of the folks we talked to said they'll be doing some form of store pickup as well. And then, number 6 for us really gets into staying focused on brick and mortar. Obviously, e-commerce is important for us. At the end of the day, we had, guys, like 60% of the participants said they would go to at least 2 brick and mortar locations. And we had roughly, gosh, it was like 30 some odd percent, like 36%, I think, said that they would be doing at 4+ stores. That's a pretty impressive number. So it's not just store A, it's making sure you're in good shape across multiple brick and mortar retailers. And then, Matt, finally for us, as we got into the practical part about this, it's all about, do everything you can to get shoppers to try your products, kind of grease the way for new products, because, brand familiarity matters. And so we asked this question. It says, gosh, of the following, which is most likely to drive your purchase of a specific brand during back to school? And brands matter. and then obviously required by school. So as you think about it from a practical standpoint, you've got the brand familiarity, which is really important, the requirements from school, but another 5-6% of the folks are of, gosh, I want to make sure that we've got really good recommendations, word of mouth, product page content for those that are shopping online. We all know from a ratings and review standpoint how that is important, especially if you've got a new product coming out. So that piece is also key. So in summary, as we look at these, we've kind of cranked through a few of these key points for us and kind of tips and tricks. Supply chain does matter. I know it's a broken record, but you've got to make sure that we're in great shape online, great shape in store. And when the two of those go together for your online pickup or your in-store pickup, you got to make sure things are in sync. Variety matters, but at the same time, we know there's going to be the big 3 or 4 that are out there, really, really important for us. And know that the anxiety is there. It's probably always been there, but I think you're going to have parents have more shopping trips early on in the year versus later because of the scarcity mentality. No one wants to come up to the week before school and realizing that the journals they needed or the binder or the notebook that they needed is simply out of stock and they can't get it. Talk about a parent's worst nightmare. It'd be right in front of you. So we know that's important as well. So that being said, a lot of common things that transfer year over year, but those are a few of the tips that we had. So Matt, that's kind of me talking the last 15, 20 minutes or so about the research and what it looks like. Would love to get in a couple of questions that are coming our way.
Yeah, very good. And forgive me if you already addressed this, but did you address Randy's question already?
Let's see. Randy's talking about anything new with buy online, pick up in store, attachments. We didn't ask anything specific along those lines around anything new to buy online, pick up in store, other than the piece that I was referring to, Matt, which is we know about 70% are going to go down that route in some way. And we've learned from our research as well as the work we've done with our friends at Supply Pike, that little nuance between your work online e-commerce and what's happening in store, if those things get out of kilter from an inventory standpoint, you're going to go to buy something online, it's going to show out of stock, even though you know it's in stock. And so doing the hard work, it's not sexy, but the hard work to ensure your inventory levels are right, everything is sinking in, is going to make or break you from a pickup standpoint inside of stores.
I've got one. Rick, you do a lot of work, broad studies, or it isn't such a broad study, but targeted studies, but you also do a lot of custom work as well. And I'm just curious, as you've gotten to know CPG companies and beyond this conversation about back to school, who are some of the brands that are doing things right with respect to optimization in store and online?
Yeah, you start to get into the big guys get bigger, and you hate to be a broken record here, but listen, if you look at the back to school side of things, you could pick up a couple of guys that are there. We saw a tremendous amount of work by Lego that's coming in, doing some really interesting work. I could jump into the adult beverage world. It said InBev is listen, there are research machines right now, and their attention to detail on sampling and getting things in the right hands did a fantastic job. Our friends at P&G are masters of research and understanding not only how shoppers think, but about what things look like in store. And they've been doing a fantastic job of ensuring execution is up to par. So there's a few big names there, but when we talk to them and we engage them, part of it is I'm reacting because there's an emergency, but these guys are proactively looking out and proactively getting in front of launches, proactively getting in front of labor issues they can see in stores so that they're not reacting to things today, they're getting out in front of it. And that would be the encouragement to the folks that are listening in today, is that by the time you realize you've got a problem, man, it's just too late, especially if you've got a SKU that you've got a 6-8 week selling window that it's seasonal. By the time you realize you got a problem in store, you've missed half your window, and you're kind of toast. So the big guys, again, I'm not saying that Lego isn't big, but a brand like Lego, which will be a medium size compared to the big machines that are out there, they're doing the exact same thing. how do I stay in front of looking out today to resolve some issues so that when the problem occurs, I've already got systems and processes in place to get to resolve them. So
Yeah.
can't underemphasize that or overemphasize that enough of being proactive and staying in front of this.
A question came in about private label. What are your thoughts on private label and the retailers' focus concerning back to school?
Yeah, I think what you're going to find is goes back to that brand piece. Everyone would love to have your kids having the brand coming into the school. I would argue today, and we didn't ask a specific question along those lines, but I would argue today is that if you're back to school and you're a parent, your kid can either go to school without the pencil organizer that they want, which is going to have Paw Patrol on it or whatever the branded thing's going to be, or they're going to have a pencil organizer of a generic brand, or you're going to take a Ziploc bag and throw the pencils in a Ziploc bag. And as a parent, are you going to send them with the Ziploc bag or are you going to take the generic piece? So I think the private brand aspect, which is normally high quality, looks really good, may not have the logo on it, the PJ Mask or the logo on it for kids, but it's sure better than the Ziploc bag or the handmade thing that's in front of you. So I would think that private brands are going to play even more strategic role today because they're going to have to do something. And I would prefer to pay maybe the 20% more or a few pennies more for the branded piece, but I can't let my kids go to school with nothing. So I just think it's going to play even more of a pivotal role because as a retailer, if anyone's going to be in stock, man, they're going to make sure their brands are in stock. And I think that's going to be a pivotal part.
So Rick, the next question came in says, how can we apply back to school occasion shopping tactics to other major shopping occasions such as Black Friday? How does e-commerce fit into the picture?
Yeah, so I think seasonal pieces are important. If I go back to Black Friday, which is changing even more than, back to school. Black Friday used to be an actual Black Friday. Now it's like Black Month, right? It's like, 30 days of shopping before the holiday hits. What I found from a very practical standpoint is that the seasonality piece of this is so, so important because you've got that very, very tight window. And the window is spreading out earlier. And we all know why, we intuitively know why, is that everyone wants the shoppers, you want their share of wallet as soon as possible to get the dollars in your hand. Now, there was a day that Black Friday was, okay, everyone's going to shoot for that Friday, that Thursday night Friday, and may the best person win. Now someone says, hey, I'll do a week early. Maybe I'll do a month early. Maybe Amazon will do something in the summer, right? I think back to school is feeling the same way from a principal standpoint. You're getting earlier and earlier. So I think having that plan of attack of being first to market early is really, really important. That's going to be very similar to Black Friday and back to school. You're going to feel the same kind of pressure to be in there.
Yeah.
And I think from an e-commerce standpoint, listen, if I'm trying to sponsor ads, I'm getting in front of folks. I wouldn't want to miss that 5-10% that we referenced that are shopping really, really early. If my e-commerce isn't buttoned up right now and I'm not sponsoring the right ads and I don't have the right, products in place, I think missing out on that 10-20% might be the game changer or difference maker for your year because more and more people are shopping earlier. So I think that's where e-commerce comes in. I don't think you have to do back to school in April because kids are still in school. Yeah. But I don't think it's too early at all to get started immediately of ensuring your e-commerce is set up. And when people are Googling, you get your AdWords set up so that the back to school solution comes toward your page.
Another great question from Randy. So glad you're here, Randy. Thank you for the questions. What are your thoughts on categories for back to school that might suffer due to inflation? People are very careful right now with their money, and where are the categories where you think there might be the greatest impact?
I would go into the wants versus needs. And I think that's a good principle that if I'm a brand or manufacturer looking, is my brand or does my item fill a need or fill a want? And I think when you look at toilet paper issues, baby formula issues, pencils, paper, nope. I mean, I think it's going to fall into that category of I'm going to make sure that my needs are taken care of. And I only have so many dollars to spend. And we'll see what happens in the apparel world. I mean, I have no magic ball here, Matt, or Randy, but if I look at the wants of wanting the apparel or wanting a new outfit or wanting a new lunchbox versus my need of, I've got to make sure I have the pens and paper or the clay or whatever it is that's required on my school list. That school list, I think, is going to drive the dollars. And I think you're going to find some of the wants simply not make it because inflation is there. It's real. And I think you're going to find parents that are fighting for the needs because no one wants their kids to go to school not having what they need. And you may not be ready to splurge on the wants coming into this year.
Rick, as always, really great stuff. I want to give you the last word, and I hope everyone will stick around, whether you're watching live, whether you're watching the video, because Rick, I'd love for you to kind of talk a little bit about the work that Field Agent is doing. You all have been pioneers and done some amazing things over the last many years, and I know you've got even more in the works, and you launched a marketplace. I'd love to give you the last 3 or 4 minutes, kind of talk about the work that your team is doing, and how folks can engage your organization.
Yeah, the easiest way for folks to engage us is obviously go to fieldagent.net and click on shop, and you can shop our products and see what's happening. But the reason I say click on shop and go to the marketplace is that there are still suppliers, brands, again, retailers, people that are out there today. This is, gosh, Rick, back to school's in front of me. I don't have time to react. I can't hire an agency. I don't have the 4 to 6 weeks. And I'm saying, slow down, come to our marketplace. In a matter of minutes, you can launch an execution to do sampling for your product. You can launch ratings and reviews to ensure that your e-commerce is up to par. I mean, in a matter of a week, we can have ratings and reviews so that all of your items have new, fresh reviews ready for that e-commerce surge. Come to us. And if you want to assess what's happening at retail from inventory levels and you're really struggling with that e-commerce piece, in a matter of minutes, you can execute something. And it's in near real time. That's getting you audit data back in to give you truth. It's getting trial and sampling out there for your customers, your consumers, and it's getting amazing rating and reviews from an e-commerce standpoint. So you don't need to have 3 meetings with Rick. You don't have to hire us an agency. I can guarantee you that shopping at our marketplace will give you data at your fingertips in a matter of minutes versus weeks and months, and you still have time to correct for back to school. We can help you do that.
Yeah, good stuff. Rick, again, thank you so much for making the time, and you and your team are doing such extraordinary work, and we're really delighted that you would make a few minutes to present to us. And I hope if anyone has any questions or certainly an opportunity to work with Field Agent to get some things done, you'll check out the marketplace. It really is incredible. So Rick, thank you so much. Have a great day. Look forward to talking with you again very soon.
You bet, Matt. Thank you. See ya.
Thank you all. Bye.